Get me that signal. We need more power.
Well, hello again there, Little John. How are you doing this fine evening? I see you brought along a friend. What's your name there, little monkey? I'm sorry I didn't catch... He doesn't talk much, does he? Well, that's all right. I suppose you're here to hear another one of me stirring tales of adventure. Well, I've got one for you. I call this piratey tale The Grindylow and the Whale. You know, the inhabitants of the Shackles don't typically take well to visitors, especially those who had come to steal riches, and that's exactly what we came there to do. There were riches to be had, all right. The problem was the Grindylows were between us and the loot. Not only did we need to get past the goblin-like Grindylows, but to get the loot we wanted, we had to find and kill the queen of the Grindylows, the brine brood queen and her lackey known only as the Whale. Well, along with myself, we had Jarell. You know, she was quite the swashbuckler, and her skill at sailing was well known. She was once again in charge of our ship, the Man's Promise. We also had Setiel, fresh from the beheading of the undead villain Arrow Ivy. A half-elf the same as Jarell. Selt is our fighting mage, and he was ready for another fight. Lyrianne was there, along with her pistols, still searching for the magic that would send her back home. Finally, Damiel the alchemist joined us once again. He was the only full elf in the party, you know, and he had proven resourceful in our last encounter. He was ready to gut the queen and the whale to unlock the magics that had mutated them into the ghastly creatures they had become. Oh, I'm feeling it in me throat there, Little John. Thanks for guarding me bottle of rum. Just watch yourself. This time, we anchored our ship outside of Riptide Cove. Jarell found a man that we all thought had to be crazy fishing in the surf of the cove named Conchabar Tulloch Shortstone. A name that's hard to forget but difficult to pronounce, that's for sure. Once she explained our quest, he told us that we were crazy, and he headed off to friendlier waters. He had an old astrolabe that he offered to Selt because he looked a little lost, he said. Setiel wasn't amused and told him to shove off. Well, hang on there. Lyrianne was exploring a cave in the cove and uncovered the brine brood queen right away when no one was expecting her. Everyone was shocked, including the queen. She resembled some insane mishmash of sea creatures, including octopus tentacles for legs, the torso of a mermaid, the head of a shark, and long, sharp claws extending from the end of her sinewy arms. The whale appeared then, a fearsome figure in himself. He looked much like the queen, but with more of a shark-like body and head, with various goblin parts poking out all over him. He attacked Lyrianne before she could react, stunning her while he and the queen made their escape. We lost a few precious hours while we waited for Lyrianne to recover. Damiel headed on into the chapel to look for something that could help her, but the blessings he found turned to dust in his hands. While they waited, Jarell continued to explore the Riptide Cove and found some magic wooden armor and a light crossbow just waiting to be picked up. Selt found his own blessing, and that same danged parrot from our last adventure popped up and just flew off once again. We'll catch that sucker one day. I just know it. Once Lyrianne was up and moving again, she headed over to the chapel, and the first thing she found was a bottle of rum. Speaking of a bottle of rum. Oh, yeah, there we go. But it wasn't her day, because a coral capuchin swooped in, stole the bottle, and flew off. Damiel was still looking for a blessing and failed once again. But at least he managed to get his hands on a fine trap spell that he hoped would prove useful later on. Just when we thought that everything had quieted down, Jarrell got attacked by a giant moray eel and a swarm of rats. Not raps. Rats at Riptide Cove. They proved to be a minor challenge for her, but as she stood screaming at the rats as they ran off, covered in dozens of tiny bites, a pirate came up behind her and almost got the drop on her. But then Celt drove his longsword through his chest from behind. Back at the chapel, Lyrianne almost got her hands around that coral capuchin, but behind him came one of the Riptide Grindylows. She fought, and she won. But without a divine blessing in her hand, she couldn't seal off the chapel from further desecration by these monsters. There was no choice but to continue to explore it fully and get one of her companions over there to seal it off with a blessing. Damiel did explore the chapel further and found a couple of useful spells that he just couldn't comprehend, and they slipped through his grasp. Jarrell was still poking around Riptide Cove and noticed that one of the mooring lines on the ship had snapped or had been cut. The hull was in danger of striking against the reef, but with the help of Damiel's fine trap spell, she got the ship secured once again with no damage. That's when she spotted a Grindylow headed for the other mooring rope. She speared him like a fish and closed off Riptide Cove to any further enemy incursions. Celt went over to check out the hatchery, and lo and behold, a Riptide Grindylow was sitting there breaking open some crabs for lunch. He made quick work of the Grindylow, only then to be attacked by a swarm of the ungrateful crabs. He made them into a lunch of his own, and the hatchery was declared safe. Lyrianne headed over to the sea caves and found herself some nice fortified leather armor. Aye, yes, Damiel checked the last nooks over at the chapel and was finally able to seal the doors closed with a blessing. Oh, these tales be thirsty work there, Little John. Aye. It was getting late in the day. We had fully explored and sealed off the Queen's escape in 3 of the 5 locations we had. We only had the sea caves and mangrove swamp left to deal with. With that in mind, we proceeded with utmost caution. Except for Jarrell, who headed right over to Mangrove Swamp and found the Queen waiting for her. As the whale came at her, she fought back desperately, stunning him and forcing the Queen to head for the sea caves. Bruised and bloody, she sealed off the swamp, trapping the Queen somewhere in the sea caves with nowhere else to run. Setiel entered the caves and fought off a mercenary the Queen had hired to guard her. But then a harpoon trap took him in the leg, forcing him to back off. Bad luck Lyrianne explored the caves and this time found a black spot spell and a blessing just for her. But no sign of the Queen. Well, it was up to Damiel. He could feel in his gut what was coming, and he didn't want to go. But we promised to give him all the help we could. And sure enough, the Queen emerged, and the whale came charging at him. The divine was on his side, though, as a blessing added to his strength, and the blood of the whale splashed the walls of the caves. The Queen faced him ready to strike. He drew out his strongest weapon, the noxious bomb, and threw it at her. Lyrianne added her black spot spell to the attack, and as Grindylow poured from the mouth of the cave to aid their Queen, the bomb went off. Oh, all right, I'll tell you what happened. It destroyed the queen and sealed the Grindylow deep in the cave, hopefully forever. When all was done, we found Besmera's magical tricorn hat and a weapon called a vindictive harpoon. As his reward for defeating the queen, Daimio took the harpoon. It helped ease some of his anger over having to completely obliterate the queen and ending any chance for him to study her mutations for himself. His quest for arcane knowledge would go unsated that day, but at least he had a shiny new toy. Lyrian took the hat because we figured she needed to change her luck. Little did we know that we would soon face the final scenario in this opening chapter of our adventures. Well, that's the end of me tale, Little John. Now, leave a pirate in peace, but pass me another one of those bottles before you go, will you? Oh, I'm a pirate, he's a pirate, she's a pirate, we're all pirates. Wouldn't you like to be a pirate, to be a pirate? Have a drink, you pirate. Be a pirate, have a drink, you pirate. Har, 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 har.